Close your eyes for a moment and pay attention to what's happening right now. You hear sounds, but where are they actually happening? Not out there in the world, but in your consciousness. You feel sensations in your body, but those sensations are experiences in awareness. You see colors and shapes when you open your eyes, but those visual experiences exist only as perceptions in your mind. Everything you've ever known, every person you've loved, every place you've visited, every moment of joy or pain, all of it has occurred nowhere but in consciousness itself. Yet we spend our entire lives convinced that reality is out there, external to us, solid and independent. Tibetan Buddhism makes a startling claim. What you perceive through your five senses is not reality at all, but a limited, distorted projection. Beyond this ordinary perception exists a pure reality, a luminous awareness that is your deepest nature and the true nature of all existence. If you're ready to discover what lies beyond the veil of ordinary perception, if you want to understand how Tibetan masters access dimensions of reality, completely unavailable to untrained awareness, subscribe now and activate notifications because what you're about to explore will shatter your assumptions about what is real and what is possible. The concept of pure reality or absolute reality in Tibetan Buddhism is not speculation or wishful thinking. It's the direct report of thousands of practitioners across centuries who trained their minds to perceive beyond the filters of conceptual thought and sensory limitation. These practitioners describe a reality that is luminous, spacious, blissful, and completely interconnected. A reality where the boundaries between subject and object dissolve, where time becomes fluid, where consciousness reveals itself as the fundamental ground of all experience. This isn't a mystical realm you go to after death or a heaven you reach through good behavior. It's the actual nature of this present moment, hidden from ordinary perception by layers of conceptual overlay and habitual grasping. Tibetan Buddhism uses various terms to point toward this pure reality. Dharmakaya means the truth body or reality body, the unmanifest dimension of enlightened awareness. Dharmadhatu means the reality sphere, or the expanse of phenomena, the basic space in which all experience arises. Rigpa, in the Dzogchen tradition, means pristine awareness or naked knowing, consciousness before it splits into subject and object. Tathagatagarbha means Buddha nature, the enlightened essence that exists in all beings. These aren't different realities, but different ways of describing the same fundamental truth, that beneath appearances, reality is pure awareness, luminous emptiness, unborn and unceasing. The teaching that reality is fundamentally different from how it appears is not unique to Buddhism. Plato spoke of the realm of forms beyond the shadows we perceive. Kant distinguished between phenomena, things as they appear, and noumena, things as they are in themselves. Modern physics has revealed that solid matter is mostly empty space, that particles behave as waves until observed, that time and space are relative rather than absolute. What makes Tibetan Buddhism unique is not the claim that appearances are deceptive, but the detailed practices offered for directly perceiving reality beyond appearances. The tradition distinguishes between two truths or two levels of reality. Conventional truth is how things appear to ordinary perception and cognition. At this level, there are separate objects. Causes produce effects. You are an individual self-interacting with an external world. This level is valid and functional. You can't ignore conventional reality without serious consequences. If you step in front of a bus while meditating on emptiness, the conventional truth of physics will assert itself painfully. But conventional truth is not ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is how things actually exist when examined deeply. At this level, all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, arising only in dependence on causes and conditions, and on the conceptual labels we apply to experience. Understanding these two truths, and particularly understanding that they're not contradictory, is essential for accessing pure reality. Conventional and ultimate truth are not two different realms, but two ways of perceiving the same reality. The untrained mind sees only conventional appearances and mistakes them for ultimate truth. The trained mind sees both levels simultaneously, understanding that phenomena appear yet are empty, function yet lack inherent existence, manifest yet are primordially pure. This is where Tibetan meditation practices become crucial. You're not trying to escape ordinary reality or imagine some other realm. You're training your mind to perceive the actual nature of this reality right here, right now. The practices work by systematically deconstructing your habitual ways of perceiving and revealing the pure awareness that exists before those habits solidify experience into seemingly solid objects and separate self. If you've ever had a moment where everything felt more vivid, more present, more interconnected than usual, leave a comment describing it. Those glimpses are the pure reality we're discussing, temporarily breaking through ordinary perception. And hit that like button if you're ready to learn how to access that reality intentionally and sustain it through practice. The first major obstacle to perceiving pure reality is what Tibetan Buddhism calls conceptual elaboration or mental fabrication. Your mind doesn't perceive reality directly. It perceives through layers of concepts, labels, judgments, memories, and projections. You see a tree, but you're not seeing the tree directly. You're seeing the concept tree overlaid on raw visual data. You're seeing your memories of other trees, your knowledge about trees, your judgments about whether this is a good tree or a bad tree, useful or useless, beautiful or ugly. All of this mental elaboration obscures direct perception. The same applies to every sense perception and every moment of experience. You hear a sound and immediately conceptualize it. That's a car, that's music, that's annoying, that's pleasant. You feel a sensation in your body and immediately label it. That's pain, that's pleasure, that's my shoulder, I need to do something about it. This labeling happens so quickly, so automatically, that you don't notice it's happening. The concept and the perception seem simultaneous, seem like one thing, but they're not. There's raw experience, and then there's the mental elaboration that arises in response to that experience. Meditation, particularly the practice of shamatha or calm abiding, begins to reveal this process. When you sit quietly and pay attention to your breath, you start noticing how thoughts arise. You see a thought appear, watch it elaborate, see it fade away. You notice how a simple sensation triggers a cascade of mental activity. Your knee hurts slightly, and within seconds you're thinking about whether you should adjust your posture, whether the pain means something is wrong, how much longer you have to sit, whether you're doing the meditation correctly, whether this whole practice is worthwhile. One small sensation generates dozens of thoughts, all of which feel urgently important in the moment but are actually just mental fabrication. As your meditation deepens, gaps begin appearing between perceptions and concepts. You perceive something and there's a moment, perhaps just a fraction of a second, before the labeling mind engages. In that gap you experience reality more directly. It's fresh, vivid, alive in a way that conceptualized experience is not. These gaps expand with practice. You begin living more in direct perception and less in conceptual overlay. This is the beginning of accessing pure reality, not by going somewhere else, but by removing the filters that obscure what's already present. The next layer of practice involves examining the nature of the perceiver itself. In ordinary experience, you assume there's a solid, continuous self that perceives objects. There's me here, and there's the world out there. This dualistic structure seems so obvious that questioning it appears absurd. But Tibetan Buddhism insists that this subject-object duality is a fabrication, not an inherent feature of reality. The pure reality that meditation reveals is non-dual, without the split between perceiver and perceived. This is where vipassana or insight meditation becomes essential. You turn awareness back on itself, investigating the nature of the one who is aware. Where is this self you feel yourself to be? Is it in your body? When you look closely, your body is a collection of sensations, changing moment to moment. Where in this collection is the self? Is it in your thoughts? But thoughts arise and pass away. They're not constant, they contradict each other. Which thought is the real you? Is the self in your emotions, your memories, your personality traits? The more carefully you look, the more you realize that what you call yourself is actually a collection of changing processes with no fixed center, no solid core. This investigation isn't meant to make you feel like you don't exist, or that life is meaningless. It's meant to reveal the nature of your existence more accurately. You exist, but not as a solid, separate, independent entity. You exist as a dynamic process, a flow of awareness that takes on temporary forms. When you realize this experientially, not just intellectually, something profound shifts. The rigid boundary between self and other softens. The desperate need to protect and promote a solid self relaxes. What emerges is a more fluid, open, spacious way of being. This spacious awareness is closer to pure reality. In Tibetan terminology, it's called the nature of mind, or the mind's true face. It's awareness itself, prior to its division into subject and object, prior to its identification with a particular body and personality. Every being has this awareness. It's not something you create or achieve. It's what you've always been beneath the overlay of concepts and conditioning. The entire path of Tibetan Buddhism, from foundational practices through the highest tantric teachings, is designed to help you recognize this nature of mind and stabilize in that recognition. The Dzogchen tradition, considered the highest teaching in the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, focuses entirely on this direct recognition. Dzogchen means great perfection or great completion, pointing to the fact that the fundamental nature of mind is already perfect, already enlightened, already complete. You're not trying to become something you're not. You're recognizing what you already are. The Dzogchen teachings offer methods for pointing out this nature of mind directly, bypassing years of preliminary practice for those who have the karma and capacity to receive such direct introduction. The master gives what's called a pointing out instruction, using words, gestures, and the power of their own realization to introduce the student to Rigpa, pristine awareness. In that moment, if the student has sufficient preparation and openness, they recognize their own nature directly. It's like suddenly realizing you've been wearing glasses your whole life and had forgotten about them. You weren't seeing reality directly. You were seeing through a lens. When you recognize the lens, you can see beyond it to what's actually there. But recognition alone isn't sufficient. The Dzogchen path continues with practices for stabilizing that recognition, for extending it from brief glimpses to continuous awareness. You learn to rest in Rigpa during meditation, to recognize it in daily life, to maintain it during dreams, and ultimately to recognize it at the moment of death. The goal is what's called stabilizing in the nature of mind, where Rigpa becomes your default state rather than a special experience you occasionally access. Share this video with anyone who senses there's more to reality than what we ordinarily perceive, who's had glimpses of something deeper and wants to understand what that is and how to access it more fully. And keep watching, because we're about to explore the specific visions and experiences that arise when you begin perceiving pure reality. As your practice deepens and your perception of pure reality strengthens, experiences arise that seem impossible from the perspective of ordinary consciousness. The Tibetan tradition describes these not as hallucinations or imagination, but as valid perceptions of dimensions of reality that ordinary awareness can't access. These experiences are mapped systematically in the tantric teachings, particularly in texts describing the completion stage practices of highest yoga tantra. One of the first changes practitioners notice is a shift in how physical reality appears. Objects seem less solid, more translucent, almost dreamlike. This isn't a deterioration of perception, but a refinement. You're beginning to see through the conceptual solidity you've imposed on experience and perceiving the actual fluidity and openness of phenomena. Colors become more vivid and luminous. Sounds have a quality of spaciousness. Sensations in the body feel less localized, less like separate feelings in separate parts and more like energy moving through a unified field. The tradition speaks of perceiving the pure lands, realms that exist beyond ordinary sensory access. These aren't places you travel to in space. They're dimensions of experience that become accessible when your perception purifies. The pure land of Amitabha, the Buddha of infinite light, is described as a realm of perfect beauty and Dharma teaching, where beings practice without obstacles and achieve enlightenment rapidly. The pure land of Tara, the female Buddha of compassionate activity, is characterized by swift and powerful assistance for beings in need. These pure lands are both actual realms where enlightened beings manifest and symbolic representations of different aspects of enlightened awareness. When you practice deity yoga, a central Vajrayana technique, you visualize yourself as an enlightened deity and your environment as a pure land. This isn't make-believe or creative imagination. It's training your perception to align with pure reality rather than contaminated appearance. The teaching is that pure reality is already present, but your habitual perception obscures it. When you visualize yourself as Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion, for example, you're not pretending to be someone you're not. You're recognizing and manifesting the compassionate nature that's your actual Buddha nature, temporarily obscured by delusion. Over time, with sustained practice, these visualizations become more stable and vivid. Advanced practitioners report that the deity and Pure Land appear with clarity, equal to or greater than ordinary perception. The deity seems to be actually present, radiating light and blessing. The Pure Land feels like an actual environment you're inhabiting. This is approaching what the tradition calls pure perception, seeing reality as it actually is, rather than through the filter of dualistic grasping and conceptual elaboration. Pure perception isn't limited to meditation sessions. It can extend to daily life. You begin perceiving all beings as Buddhas, recognizing their fundamental Buddha nature even when it's obscured by confusion and negativity. You perceive all sounds as mantra, recognizing that all vibration is the energy of enlightened speech. You perceive all environments as pure lands, recognizing that space itself is the Dharmakaya. This doesn't mean ignoring suffering or pretending everything is perfect. It means perceiving two levels simultaneously. The conventional level where beings suffer and need help, and the ultimate level where everything is fundamentally pure, empty of inherent existence, and permeated with Buddha nature. The tradition also describes experiences of the subtle body becoming palpable. You begin feeling the channels, energies, and essences that exist as a subtle dimension of your being. The central channel running along your spine becomes perceptible as an empty tube of light. The side channels and their branching networks become tangible as pathways of energy. The chakras at key points along the central channel are felt as wheels of energy with specific qualities. These aren't metaphors or imagination. They're actual subtle structures that exist parallel to and influencing your physical body. Through advanced practices like tummo or inner heat yoga, practitioners learn to direct subtle energies consciously. They can generate intense heat in the body, verified by external observers who see ice melting on the skin or steam rising from wet sheets wrapped around the meditator. They can control involuntary functions like heart rate and metabolism. They can remain comfortable in extreme cold or heat. These aren't miracles or supernatural powers. They're natural capabilities that emerge when you gain control over the subtle body, through practices that work with pure reality rather than just physical reality. Comment below if this is challenging your understanding of what's possible, if you're feeling skeptical or curious or both. Skepticism is appropriate. Don't accept these claims on faith, but remain open to investigating them through practice. Perhaps the most profound experience that arises when accessing pure reality is the direct perception of emptiness and luminosity as inseparable. Emptiness, as we discussed earlier, means the absence of inherent existence in all phenomena. Luminosity means the clear, knowing, cognizant quality of awareness itself. Ordinary mind thinks these are separate. Either things exist or they don't. Either consciousness is present or it's not. But pure reality reveals that emptiness and luminosity are one nature, two sides of the same coin. When you directly perceive this, usually called the union of emptiness and clarity, or the union of emptiness and bliss, it's unmistakable. Phenomena appear vividly, more vivid than in ordinary perception, yet you see clearly that they're empty of inherent existence, that they're like rainbows or reflections or dreams. Awareness is intensely present and knowing, yet you recognize it has no substance, no location, no characteristics that can be grasped. This simultaneous appearance and emptiness, presence and absence, is the nature of pure reality. This realization brings immense freedom. If phenomena are empty yet appear, you can work with them skillfully without being trapped by them. If awareness is luminous yet empty, you can experience fully without clinging or aversion. The sharp edges of hope and fear dissolve. You're no longer desperate for pleasant experiences to continue or for unpleasant experiences to end, because you see that all experiences are like clouds passing through sky, appearing yet insubstantial, momentary yet part of a continuous flow. The Mahamudra tradition, emphasized in the Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism, focuses on this direct recognition of mind's true nature. Mahamudra means great seal or great symbol, pointing to the fact that all experience is sealed with or marked by the fundamental nature of emptiness and luminosity. The Mahamudra teachings, like Dzogchen, offer methods for recognizing this nature directly and stabilizing in that recognition. The path progresses through stages, recognizing mind's nature, gaining confidence in that recognition, extending the recognition to all experiences, and finally stabilizing in continuous recognition that never wavers. Advanced Mahamudra practitioners report a state called one taste, where all experiences, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, are experienced as the same flavor of empty luminosity. Pleasure and pain, success and failure, praise and blame, all are equally expressions of pure reality, equally empty, equally radiant. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or numb. It means perceiving the fundamental equality of all phenomena at the ultimate level, while still responding appropriately at the conventional level. Beyond one taste is non-meditation, the stage where meditation and post-meditation become indistinguishable because you're continuously resting in the nature of mind without effort. There's no longer a special state you enter during formal practice and leave when you finish. Pure reality is continuously manifest, whether you're sitting in meditation or engaged in activity, awake or asleep, living or dying. This is the fruition of the path, what the tradition calls sahaja or co-emergent wisdom, where wisdom and experience arise together inseparably. The tradition emphasizes that these experiences and realizations aren't the goal itself. They're signs along the path, confirmations that your practice is going in the right direction. The actual goal is complete enlightenment, Buddhahood, where all obscurations are purified and all qualities are fully developed. At that stage, you're no longer limited by time or space, no longer bound by ordinary physical laws. You can manifest in countless forms simultaneously to benefit beings. You perceive directly the karma and capacities of infinite beings and respond to each appropriately. You dwell continuously in the pure reality of Dharmakaya while manifesting in form to serve beings. The three kayas, or three bodies of a Buddha, describe this complete realization. Dharmakaya is the truth body, the unmanifest dimension of pure awareness, emptiness, and luminosity. Sambhogakaya is the enjoyment body, the subtle form that appears to advanced bodhisattvas in pure lands, radiating light and teaching dharma. Nirmanakaya is the emanation body, the physical forms that appear in ordinary realms to guide beings who can't yet perceive subtle dimensions. These aren't three separate entities, but three aspects of complete enlightenment, three ways that pure reality manifests to beings at different levels of realization. This is why Tibetan Buddhism places such emphasis on devotion and guru yoga. When you connect with an enlightened master, you're connecting with someone who dwells in pure reality, who has access to dimensions beyond ordinary perception. Their blessing isn't just emotional support or psychological encouragement. It's actual transmission of awareness, a direct connection that awakens your own pure awareness. In the presence of a realized master, students often experience spontaneous shifts in consciousness, sudden clarity, overwhelming devotion, or direct recognition of mind's nature. These aren't random experiences, but the natural effect of encountering someone who embodies pure reality. The practice of guru yoga involves visualizing your teacher above your head or at your heart, seeing them as inseparable from all enlightened beings, and receiving their blessing in the form of light that dissolves into you. This practice creates what the tradition calls heart connection, a link at the level of pure reality rather than just conventional relationship. Through this connection, the teacher's realization can directly influence your consciousness, accelerating your progress in ways that individual practice alone cannot achieve. But the tradition also warns against regarding the teacher as external to you or fundamentally different from you. The ultimate teaching is that your teacher's enlightened nature and your own Buddha nature are the same nature. You're not worshiping someone else's perfection. You're recognizing perfection that you share, that all beings share, but which your teacher has realized while you're still working toward realization. Share this with someone on a serious spiritual path who's ready for these deeper teachings. These aren't entry-level concepts. They're advanced understandings meant for those who have some foundation in practice and are committed to genuine transformation. The question naturally arises: if pure reality exists right now, if Buddha nature is present in every being, why don't we perceive it? Why does ordinary reality seem so solid, so limited, so far from the luminous perfection the teachings describe? Tibetan Buddhism offers precise answers. The obscurations that prevent perception of pure reality are of two types: afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations. Afflictive obscurations are the mental afflictions or kleshas: attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, jealousy, and their countless variations. These create turbulence in mind, like waves on water preventing you from seeing clearly to the bottom. When your mind is agitated by craving or anger or confusion, you can't perceive subtly. Your awareness is too coarse, too disturbed. This is why ethical discipline and shamatha meditation are foundational. They calm the mind sufficiently that refined perception becomes possible. Cognitive obscurations are more subtle. They're the habitual dualistic perception that divides reality into subject and object, self and other, inherent existence and complete non-existence. Even when your mind is calm and relatively free from gross afflictions, you might still perceive through this dualistic framework. These cognitive obscurations prevent full enlightenment even when you've achieved high realization. They're like subtle cataracts that blur vision even when your eyes are healthy otherwise. The path purifies both types of obscuration progressively. The early stages focus more on afflictive obscurations, developing ethics and concentration that reduce gross disturbances. The middle stages begin addressing cognitive obscurations through insight into emptiness. The advanced stages involve increasingly subtle purification, until even the most refined dualistic perception is transcended, and pure reality is perceived directly and continuously. But here's something crucial that the tradition emphasizes. These obscurations aren't fundamental to mind's nature. They're adventitious, temporary stains on something that's primordially pure. No matter how long they've been present, they can be completely removed because they're not inherent to awareness itself. It's like a clear crystal wrapped in dirty cloth. The crystal's clarity isn't diminished by the cloth. When you remove the cloth, the clarity is immediately apparent. Similarly, when obscurations are removed, Buddha nature, pure awareness, is immediately recognized because it was always present. This understanding prevents discouragement. You're not trying to create something new or become something fundamentally different from what you are. You're uncovering what's always been true about you but has been hidden by temporary obscurations. Every moment of practice, every instant of mindfulness, every glimpse of mind's nature removes some obscuration and brings you closer to continuous recognition of pure reality. The tradition offers many methods for accelerating this purification. Vajrasattva practice purifies negative karma through visualization and mantra recitation. Mandala offering practice accumulates merit by symbolically offering the entire universe. Prostrations purify pride and develop devotion. Gyundro, or preliminary practices, which include all of these and more, prepare the mind thoroughly for advanced meditation on pure reality. These aren't arbitrary rituals but precisely designed technologies for transforming consciousness. As we approach the culmination of this exploration, consider what you've learned about pure reality in Tibetan Buddhism. It's not a separate realm you travel to, but the actual nature of this present reality, hidden from ordinary perception by conceptual elaboration and dualistic grasping. It's characterized by emptiness and luminosity inseparably united, by the three kayas of Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya manifesting as one nature, by Buddha, nature present in all beings waiting to be recognized. Accessing this pure reality isn't about extraordinary experiences or supernatural powers, though those may arise as side effects. It's about training your mind to perceive what's actually present, rather than the limited, distorted version filtered through concepts and afflictions. The training involves ethics to calm gross disturbance, concentration to stabilize awareness, wisdom to penetrate appearances and realize emptiness, and devotion to connect with those who have already achieved realization and can guide and inspire you. The Tibetan masters aren't asking you to believe in some metaphysical doctrine. They're inviting you to investigate directly through practice. Sit in meditation and watch how concepts overlay raw perception. Examine the self you think you are and try to find it under analysis. Visualize deity in pure land and notice how perception can shift. Practice guru yoga and feel the connection with enlightened awareness. These are empirical investigations, experiments you conduct with your own consciousness. If after sustained, proper practice you don't experience any shifts, if perception remains unchanged, then you have grounds for skepticism. But if you practice sincerely and consistently, the tradition promises you will begin perceiving more directly, more clearly, more in accord with reality's actual nature. The veil will thin, gaps will appear in conceptual overlay, luminosity will shine through more frequently and for longer duration. Pure reality will reveal itself because it was always present, just obscured. What you do with these teachings is your choice. You can treat them as interesting philosophy, exotic concepts to think about occasionally, or you can treat them as practical instructions for transforming your perception and realizing your deepest nature. The teachings are available, transmitted unbroken through lineages stretching back to the Buddha himself. Qualified teachers exist in the modern world, accessible to serious students. Practice communities offer support and encouragement. The only question is your commitment. If this video has sparked something in you, if you sense that pure reality is more than pleasant philosophy, if you want guidance on this path, subscribe and activate notifications. We're exploring these profound teachings systematically, building understanding and inspiration for genuine practice. Share this with others who are ready for these teachings, who have the karma to hear about pure reality and the aspiration to realize it directly. Most importantly, practice. Find a qualified teacher if possible. If not, begin with what's available. Meditate daily, even briefly. Study authentic texts. Cultivate ethical discipline. Generate bodhicitta. Everything you do in alignment with Dharma removes obscurations and reveals more of pure reality. Your Buddha nature is calling you home to itself. Will you answer that call? May all beings recognize the pure reality that is their own nature. May all obscurations be swiftly purified. May all beings realize the union of emptiness and luminosity. May all beings achieve complete enlightenment in the Dharmakaya, benefit all beings through the Sambhogakaya, and manifest in countless forms as Nirmanakaya for the welfare of all. Thank you for engaging with these profound teachings on the nature of reality itself. May your practice bear swift fruit and may you guide countless others to the same realization.